Let's have appetizers for dinner. Sure. How about hot wings, rotel, pig in the blankets, hot pockets, chicken sliders, beef and steak quesadillas? I wash and dice up. Take two boneless, skinless chicken breasts and I split them. I add a half a cup of buttermilk, a tablespoon of hot sauce, and a tablespoon of my seasoning. I massage the marinade into the chicken breast. I put it in the refrigerator and I let it marinate for 3 hours. A tablespoon of olive oil in my pan, the thinly sliced ribeye to the pan. I add salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Once it's halfway done, I add minced onions and green peppers and a little more salt. It's done, I remove from the heat and set aside. Preheat the oven to 425. A pastry, I divide it into equal parts. I add half a slice of American cheese, a half a slice of mozzarella cheese. I add the steak, and then I add a half a slice of American cheese and a half a slice of mozzarella cheese. I fold the pastry over, crimp the edges down with a fork, and cut 3 slits on top. Brush with melted butter. Sprinkle with grated Parmesan cheese. Place in the oven and set the timer to 15 minutes. Time for the pig in the blankets. I wrap the crescent rolls around the hot dogs. I put them in the oven on 375. I set the timer to 11 minutes. Elsie washed and cleaned the wings. I season them. I put 2 quarts of oil in a pot and I heat it. Once the oil is hot, I add the wings. Let them cook for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, I remove and drain on paper towels. I melt a stick of butter in a pan. I add a cup of Frank's Red Hot sauce, buffalo wing sauce. I add a tablespoon of brown sugar and a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. Get to a boil and then I let it simmer for about 20 minutes. I brown 2 1/4 pounds of ground beef. Cut Velveeta cheese up in a pot. Turn it on low and let it melt. Once the beef is brown, I drain the fat and I add my own taco seasoning. I add 3/4 cups of beef broth. I bring it to a boil and then I let it simmer for about 5 minutes. I pour the sauce on the wings. I toss it, ensuring all wings get covered. I put half of the seasoned beef in a bowl. I add the melted Velveeta cheese. I add a cup of salsa. I mix it together. Put 8 cups of water in a pot. Put 2 cups of sugar in a pitcher. Once the water starts boiling, add a tea bag. Move from heat, cover, and let it steep for about 10 minutes. I put 1/4 teaspoon of olive oil in a pan. I heat the pan. I add a tortilla shell. I add shredded cheddar cheese, and then I add seasoned beef. I add more cheese. I add a tortilla shell on top. After a minute, I turn it over and let it brown on the other side and let the cheese melt. I put it on a cutting board and I slice it. I slice it into 8 pieces, like so. I repeat the same steps for the steak. I wash 7 lemons. I cut the end off and cut them in half. Take the lemon half. I put it in a lemon squeezer and I squeeze the lemon juice into the pitcher of sugar. I fill the pitcher 3/4 full with ice. I take a lemon, wash it, and cut it into 8 slices. I also put that in the pitcher. Pour the steep tea into the pitcher. I stir until the sugar is dissolved. In a Ziploc bag, I put 2 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of black pepper, 1 tablespoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 tablespoon of paprika, and a half a tablespoon of baking powder. I remove the marinated chicken breast from the refrigerator and I put it in the flour and I mix it. I put vegetable oil in the pan and when it's hot, I add the chicken. I set the timer to 9 minutes. After 4 minutes, I turn the chicken over. I set the oven to high broil. I take 6 slider Hawaiian rolls and I split them in half. I melt a half a stick of butter. I dip the bread in the butter. I place it in the oven. After the bread is toasted, I put the mayonnaise on the bread. I put a piece of chicken and a pickle.